Hey, so good morning, Nicholas. How's it going?
Morning to you, Sandra. I'm currently in Kuala Lumpur, where my background is obviously different from usual. So
Yeah.
right at where we started,
So what brings you to Kuala Lumpur?
of course, meeting customers. Now that COVID is more or less officially over, pretty sure things are getting back to normal. So very glad to be here in Malaysia, meeting customers later.
Okay, so today we're gonna do our first webinar for the Malaysia Scopus Consortium. So glad to be doing it together again. It's the first of a series. So I guess we should give it a couple more minutes before everyone, allow everyone to arrive.
Yeah, we can take a couple of minutes. And once again, very glad to be doing this with you again, Sandra. The series of 6 workshops should be good fun for everyone. We changed the topics a bit this time around as well, so they'll be a bit more relevant. And I think we have some new interesting stuff to showcase to everyone too.
All right, we got 100 people so far. I know that almost 500 had registered. So we're recording this session. So people who either miss it or miss part of it or would like to refer back to anything that was presented can use the recording for that purpose. And it's a webinar. We can't see you. If you want to participate, ask us a question. I think there's a Q&A box. So the best place to ask a question is in the Q&A box. And we'll try to answer those questions either on the go or at the end of the session today. I believe there's also a chat function. Do you know if that's enabled, Nicholas? We can try it. We can say hello to everyone. Good morning, everyone.
I think it only goes up to hosts and panelists.
Oh, yeah. Let me send it to everyone. All right. Shall we just get started then? And you're the slide master. But I think we just talked before, and I'll give a quick introduction to what this is. So welcome, everyone. This is the first webinar of a series that we have planned. That's all about Scopus. And the audience is everyone in Malaysia, really. My name's Alexander van Servellen. I'm a senior consultant working for Elsevier. I'm based in Singapore. And I'm working with Nicholas, who can introduce himself quickly.
Hi, I'm Nicholas. I'm also a senior consultant and I'm based in Singapore. Together, Sandra and I have been working together very closely on this, and we look forward to presenting this series of Scopus workshops to you over here in Malaysia.
So today's is an introduction to Scopus. So this is meant for people who maybe don't know that much about what Scopus is or how it can help you as a student or a researcher or a librarian or a administrator who would like to give this basic introduction. For those of you that do know Scopus, we'll talk a little bit about the latest updates and innovation, the kind of vision we have for Scopus. And again, please don't be shy to ask questions. Next slide, please. So we have this program. Today is the first of 6 planned webinars. So today is an introduction. Webinar number 2 is on June 20th, which is really about search and discovery. So helping you find peer-reviewed scientific literature using Scopus. Webinar number 3 is on July 25th, which is about content selection and curation. So Scopus is a curated database that carefully selects which journals, conferences, and books are covered and included in Scopus. So how does that work, and what content is included? How could you find the right journal or book or so forth? Next slide, please. Webinar number 4 is on September 20th. That is really about analytical features and research metrics. So how can you analyze and understand the quality of a journal or the quality of a particular paper, or understand the research trend, or evaluate the impact of a researcher? For example, there are different metrics or indicators included in Scopus and some features, and we'll teach you how to use those on September 20th. On October 24th, we really look at profiles as well as preprints and topics. You might know Scopus has profiles for every researcher has their own profile. And in the profile, you can find all the papers of the researcher, but also preprints. You can see which topics they've published in. So we're going to talk a lot about that on October 24th. The last webinar this year will be November 7th. And we're going to deep dive on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. A lot of people are talking about them. How can you use Scopus to understand which papers belong to which SDGs and so forth? So that's the schedule. We will share these slides. They will be sent to you automatically by Zoom tomorrow, so that you can use these QR codes to register for those webinars. For today, as always, we start at the beginning with an introduction. I'm going to cover that. Nicholas is going to tell you about the use cases. So what are the different things that different people can do in Scopus and why? Nicholas is also going to talk about training and service. So what service support can you expect from Elsevier and from us? I'm going to start talking about product development. What are some of the latest developments in Scopus? Nicholas is going to chime in there as well before we both give you a live demonstration of some of the key features in Scopus. And then we'll move to Q&A, as well as explaining how you can get your certificate of completion for this training. If you want one, you're free to get one. So that's the agenda. Any comments, Nick?
No, I think we can probably get started on the introduction to Scopus itself.
Yeah. So my voice is okay, the volume? Okay. So an introduction to Scopus. Scopus is a lot about progressing, evaluating, reflecting on research to serve the whole institution. So it's not just for researchers, it's for many different people. At either universities, government institutions, also some corporates are all using Scopus. Scopus provides you insights from a trusted data set that now is over 90 million records, so 90 million articles. They come from many different publishers. We have 17 million author profiles, almost 100,000 institutional profiles, and about 20 million open access items. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of different ways in which Scopus provides value. You have metrics representing journals, articles, authors. We have profiles for researchers, profiles for institutions. We have APIs, so people can use the web interface to access Scopus and do searches and analysis, but you can also access the data as an institution via an API. You've got really neat filters that'll help you to filter through and find what you're interested in. So I think we're going to demonstrate some of that stuff. You can go to the next slide. I think you have to go one back, yeah. So this is a new slide about how Scopus supports researchers throughout their career, from being an early career researcher to advancing through the stages. So it really provides access to peer-reviewed science, anywhere from search and discovery to find the right paper, to finding the right journal, to finding the right person to finding the right institution, to understanding research trends, with a lot of filters there, and everything's connected, which we'll show you later. So it's easy to navigate and understand what you're looking at in Scopus. That data really comes from a lot of different places and it's curated. So we select the journals, for example. There's some funding data. We have PlumX metrics. We have a lot of open access articles that are included, so you can for sure link out through to the full text. We do a lot of data enrichment to give you really high quality keywords, as mentioned, all of the disambiguated profiles for universities, for people, for journals, and so forth. So it's a really, really powerful platform. And if you go to the next slide. So the use cases really span across progressing research. So, helping institutions teach researchers, helping researchers learn and develop through their career. But also there's the evaluation, right? So it's not just about individual development, it's also helping institutions evaluate the quality of their own research and track research trends, get signals for research impact, either of what they are doing or other people. So that can help in strategy and evaluation workflows. Next slide. The people that are supported are spanning across a lot of different types of people at a university. It could be students that need to learn and have access to high quality research, librarians who have the very important function of supporting the whole research ecosystem at a university with resources and the wisdom of what the best practices are, researchers and faculty, so people that have tenure and are working at a university doing research, editors, heads of departments, research services, so any department that's doing administration or evaluating, reporting of research performance can use the data that's in Scopus. So if this seems a bit abstract to you, don't worry. We're gonna demonstrate some of this stuff. Nicholas is going to talk about what specific use cases librarians and students and researchers can do in Scopus. So maybe we go to the next slide. I mentioned the data in Scopus is connected. So that's to say every article is connected to a researcher, and the researcher is connected to all of their articles, as well as the institution that they work for. The institution is connected to all the articles and all the researchers that they're connected to. So because it's all connected, it's easy to navigate. You can you find a paper and link to the author and see the rest of their papers, or you can link to the institution and see all of the authors that work at the institution. Or the starting point might be an author. You might search for an author and find a person and see all their papers and see who they collaborate with, and then link to another author or so forth. So because everything's connected, it's pretty easy to find an entry point based on a search, and then maybe link further rather than just doing searches. You might link to other things and learn a lot that way. So it's connected, linked data. It is comprehensive. So Scopus includes content from over 7,000 publishers. I think it's about 27,000 serial titles from 105 countries, over 40 languages, covering all of the different subject areas, as well as a lot of great coverage from the different regions. So we have more than 2,200 journals or titles from Asia Pacific. Next slide. Nicholas, I think he's stuck. That's not good. We'll give him a minute to sort out the internet.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just got stuck for a sec.
Gotcha. Oh, good.
We will just go to the next slide.
Yeah. This should be it.
Yes. No, the one before with the content. Yeah. So
I think the internet's a bit iffy over my side. Apologies.
Yeah, I think so.
The slide
Maybe you want to turn your camera off, see if that helps.
you should be seeing right now should be on. Is it more stable now? It should be under the CSAB slide.
Yeah. So the
Perfect.
content that's in Scopus is selected by a content selection advisory board. So individual people who are prominent researchers are selecting the content. And it's very selective. So it's quite hard to get into Scopus, and that helps to uphold the quality of the content. Next slide, please. The content coverage by now is over 90 million articles covering journals, conferences, and books. Over 13,000 new articles are indexed every day. And we have, let's see, over 6,000 open access journals, which is great. Next slide, please. So here we're going to look at some of the use cases, and for that I'm going to hand over to Nicholas, hoping that his internet works.
I'm hoping to as well. So Scopus, like what Sander mentioned earlier, is able to support a huge range of institutional stakeholders. So I'm not sure what your identities and your roles are. So I'm just going to go through all of this to make sure and to showcase these are some of the use cases that you can leverage upon Scopus. So assuming that you are a librarian, what you will probably want to do is to be able to provision your end users, your community access to critical global research insights, as well as analytics. You can get new opinions and ideas and insights for research strategy discussions with your stakeholders. You also will want to improve and to increase research workflow efficiency, at the same time ensuring data quality as well as integrity within the institutional library systems as well. And of course, you probably want to achieve integration in the database and the platforms to improve your discovery across resources. If you're a faculty and researcher, what you want to do is to be able to track research performance to highlight impact or contribution. You also want to be able to conduct research. And for you to do that, you need to be able to identify and to assess potential research collaborators or networks or commercial partners. I understand within Malaysia, there's a very huge drive to basically collaborate together with industry, and Scopus is a very good angle for you to do so. If you're an editor, you want to, and if you're submitting your manuscript to be published and you want to nominate a series of reviewers, you can use Scopus to identify and to assess reviewers or experts within your certain field itself. Once again, you can also use this as a platform for networking and for collaboration. We'll be talking about how you can identify suitable journals for submissions, because at the end of the day, it's one thing for you to submit your manuscript, it's another for you to submit it to the right home so that you can maximize your visibility and the citations that your manuscript deserves as well. As a faculty and researcher member with Scopus, you can keep up to date with the latest developments in your field of research, as well as any other relevant or related topics. Now, if you're a student, what you want to do, know how to assess trusted cross-disciplinary information to support your literature reviews. You want to be able to develop your research paper, as well as any other thesis topics as well. Scopus gives you a good perspective for you to understand the scholarly landscape of your subject field. You can track the careers of senior researchers and also to identify potential career paths as well. It's a good platform for you to showcase your digital profile in the preparation for the next steps in your research career. Also, if you're an editor, you're able to leverage and to benchmark and as well as to assess journal performance across an array of journal level metrics. And also very crucially, what you can do is that you can identify and to target peer reviewers, as well as other potential editorial board members that you may want to bring on board. You can also use this to source ideas for trending topics that you can use to generate special issues with too. If you're, say, a PI, and if you're also a head of a department, what you can do is to use Scopus to support early career research networking, as well as career building. You can optimize research activities for senior teams. You can also learn how to benchmark, to assess, and to expand journals for your editor, as well as your editorial board members. And this is a good way for you to develop and to help your research to signal their research impact, right? How you can showcase yourself better, how you can maximize your visibility better. So this actually allows you to help guide and to build responsible, transparent, and robust tenureship and promotion cases. You can also signal research impact in customized reports as well as analysis. If you're in research service, as a librarian, you can use it to assess metadata as well as research metrics to enhance your own internal systems and reports with high quality, authoritative research information. You can also use to promote researchers, journals, and institutions with an ease and confidence to showcase your achievements. And you can also inspire confidence in analysis with constantly updated data, which is unmatched in quality as well as quantity, which is source neutral and is also curated by experts. So what I'll also be sharing with you in today's session will be about training and services for the MOHE's Malaysian Scopus Consortium. So Sandra and myself are around as the customer consultants with years of experience in training to make sure that you would know how to make the best and most efficient use out of your subscription to Scopus. So these services are free of charge, and it's of course at no additional cost. So what we are doing is to conduct and to customize on-site and online trainings, as well as showcasing with you best practice sessions, as well as to showcase and to provide you with assistance on how you can drive usage awareness and value within your subscription itself. We do have a Scopus librarian certification program, and this is a 6-week online training, which is designed to provide a very strong foundation in key functions within Scopus. There is no fee for the certification, but participation is by invitation only as spaces are limited. And if you are interested, you can click on the link and you can submit your names to us if you're interested to be certified as a librarian. We also have a librarian guide for easy navigation through with instructions on Scopus that you can also find out more about too. The Scopus Academy is an introductory Scopus training for researchers and students. And this is actually a really nice platform for you to get started on Scopus too. Sandra has gone through the 6 webinars with you, and these are actually customized for you as well. And we look forward to seeing you across these 6 sessions. Sandra, over back to you.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the product development. So Scopus is a product in the sense that there's a technical aspect to it, there's a content aspect to it, and we're always developing what's included in Scopus, how the functionality works, and our vision of what it should look like tomorrow. So in the last couple of years, we've added a lot of content. So there were 4.8 million items added recently, including 37,000 standalone book titles. And that's to boost our coverage of social sciences, arts and humanities, any field that publishes more in books and journals. We've improved the Scopus author profile page, so the page where authors are presented. We've improved the functionality as well as to provide more information and context about each author so that when people go there, they really understand a little bit more about the author, and it serves as a really good page to showcase their work. In line with that, we've improved the workflow of the author feedback wizard. So that's a tool that allows any author to go in and make changes to their author profile in Scopus. Changes could be a change in the name format, adding missing content. So if there are papers that are missing, given that those papers are published in journals that are covered by Scopus, they can be added, or removing anything that's incorrect, changing the current affiliation that's displayed in the profile and so forth. So we made that a little bit more easy. We've improved the document details page. So when you look, that's the page. The document details page is the page when you find an article and you open the page and you see the title of the article. You can see the authors of the article, the institutions that they work for. You can see the abstract, keywords, and references. That's called the document details page. We've redesigned it to include new metrics, and to make it a bit more intuitive. We have PlumX metrics. You might be familiar with PlumX, are metrics that complement citation metrics, which now include policy citations. So if a research paper is cited by a policy document, that is reflected in the PlumX metrics. So that's a great way to showcase and understand the impact of your work if your work is being cited by, for example, policy documents. And we've added preprint content to the Scopus author profile. So in certain fields, it's common to publish in a preprint server before going through the peer review. That provides everyone early signals of important findings. So there are certain preprint servers that we've included in Scopus, but the papers only are included in the Scopus author profile, clearly tagged as being preprints. They're not mixed in with the peer review content. So that's stuff that we already did last year. Next slide, please. Nick, you want to help me go to the next slide? All right, so Nicholas is gone. I'm going to try to present this myself. Give me a minute. So apologize. This is what happens sometimes when we go and we stay at a hotel, and then the internet isn't very strong, and then you can get these kind of problems. So it's not Nicholas's fault. I'm going to speed through these slides.
Hi, Sandra. I'm back again.
I've got the slides working, so I'll present them.
Good. Apologies for that.
Yeah, so funding data, in addition to having publications, we have started adding funding data to Scopus so that you can see what funding has been won by particular people and by what funding has been used to publish articles. So you might know that in an article, if you scroll down, you can see a lot of additional information. Quite often you can see which funding bodies have funded the research of a particular paper. We've improved the open access filter so that you can filter through the content in Scopus by different types of open access to find the underlying articles. We've added the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in Scopus. So for any paper, you can see which UN SDG that paper belongs to, as well as in the advanced search, you can use an advanced search query to identify all of the papers that belong to a particular SDG. We've also redesigned the export service so that if you select a bunch of papers and you want to export them to Excel, we're now supporting much larger exports, up to 20,000 articles, and we've improved the functionality so that it's a bit easier and more as possible with the export service. We've added author, the full names of authors. So I think in the past, quite often it was just for some author names, we had just initials and a last name. We've now made the effort of going through the full text of the papers provided to Scopus to source the full names where available so that the author profiles are better. We are actively supporting better access to full text so that if you find an item, an article, a book, a conference paper in Scopus, that it's as easy as possible for you to link from that in Scopus to find the full text paper so that you can read that paper. So there's a lot of improvements on making that easier, less clicks. Scopus API, so Application Programming Interface. For those of you who know what an API is and know what it can do, we're making it easier to use the APIs by having a better developer portal. We have a dedicated data support team that is based in APAC now in the Philippines. So a lot more support, making it easier for you to use the APIs in Scopus. Some of the planned stuff that we are rolling out in 2023 is we've pushed a lot of Scopus author profiles onto Science Direct. So you might know Science Direct is Elsevier's full text platform. It's visited by really millions of people. Like it is really, really a lot of traffic there. And by pushing the Scopus author profiles into Science Direct, they're also become searchable by Google because a lot of Science Direct is searchable in Google as well. So that drives a lot of visibility of the Scopus author profiles, and that drives visibility of researchers. We are redesigning the affiliation profile or the organizational profile. So for a given university, University Malaya or UTM, any of the great universities in Malaysia, each one has a dedicated page in Scopus, and we're going to redesign that page to it's a bit more fresh. We're improving research signals. So we have a pilot currently called Research Discovery Pilot. You might see it in your Scopus on the landing page. It allows you to search for researchers using experts. So it should make it easier for you to find an expert in a particular field, so that it's easier to find people for collaboration, people for recruitment, people for inviting the right person for a conference, or finding a reviewer or an editor, or so forth. So search and analytics, we're improving the search results page. So when you search for something in Scopus, you see relevant results. So that's something that we're working on improving. And we're going to indicate the Times Higher Education ranking information on the organization. So on the profile page of a university will indicate what their latest rank was in Times Higher Education. So that's all stuff that's in the pipeline. And I think Nicholas wanted to run you through some other developments. I'm going to hand over to him. He's voice only, and Nick, just let me know for the slides. I'll move through them.
Sure thing. Thank you. Thanks for this, Sandra. So I think one of the things that Sandra has mentioned in passing as well will be some of the developments that we have rolled out. I think how Scopus is structuring its upgrades is to make it easier to use. You probably have heard that we're looking to improve to showcase better research signals, and we want to make it sure that it's easier for you to search and to do your analysis better than before. Next slide, please, Sandra. So you probably heard what he was sharing as well with regards to one of the things about Scopus author profiles on Science Direct. I think this is something which is really exciting because I cover Science Direct as well. And one of the key things that we always face when we are talking about Science Direct is to find out who the details of the authors who are writing the full text article. So now with the Scopus author profiles on Science Direct, it's strongly integrated between Scopus and Science Direct. You can get an enhanced user journey, and this showcases and you get context about authors for users in Science Direct to make sure that the author profiles will be able to reach out to a broader, more global audience. The search results have been redesigned to give you the option to review and to refine your search queries easier than before. You can refine your results faster. You can toggle between a table and a list view of results. This is just to give you more options as to how you want to peruse through the data. You can combine the queries functionality. So now it's actually easier for you to refine your searches and to also conduct systematic reviews. We've heard your comments about systematic reviews. Many of you have come over to me and Sandra throughout the years to talk about how it is to conduct systematic reviews on Scopus. These are added functionalities that we're building into the search interface as well. So you find that it will be easier for you to do so moving forward. With the header and footer improvements, you get an improved menu design and a link to claim author profiles and to easier navigate across smaller screens. And of course, the author feedback wizard is something that we have drastically worked on over the past few years. And it's actually, we're looking to incorporate new data types, including awarded grants. And it's just easier for you to just make changes to it, for you to make tweaks to it, etc. And of course, we also have a user privacy center that will include more information about personalized features on Scopus itself. Next slide, please. So we also have included two additional preprint servers, which is Tech Archive and Research Square. Tech Archive is the preprint server by IEEE across the areas of engineering, computer science, and other related technology. I think this will resonate very closely with Malaysia because there's many universities here with very strong outputs in the areas of engineering and computer science. Research Square is a multidisciplinary preprint server by Research Square Company. And once again, Malaysia has a very strong interest and output in social sciences, and this would be something that would very closely relate to it as well. We know SDGs are something very important. And what we have done is to improve the tweaking. We've improved our advanced search capabilities so that you can first and foremost search for it. You can export SDG labels, and you can view the SDGs that are mapped to a particular organizational profile. Grants data is something we are working on as well, and we are improving on it on the Scopus author profile. So the user feedback will allow for the improvement in terms of the data, which will be expanded to include additional regions and funding sources. Next slide, please. So the researcher discovery pilot is something quite interesting and exciting for me. So what you are able to do is to conduct a keyword search for a particular topic. And what you can now do is that you can find relevant researcher and expert matches. And this builds a view of the individuals contributing to this particular field. With the full text access improvements, users can easily find and make use of full text version of the content that you're looking for. Sandra covered about author full names for easier disambiguation, the export services, and the search functionality. So I won't go into too much detail over here. Next slide, please. So I just want to showcase you some very quick snapshots in terms of the search results redesign. And for those of you who have not used Scopus before, or who have not used the redesign page before, on the right side is a screenshot of how the search results redesign will be look like. So you can see that at the top part of it, we have a new search form, which is easier for you to review and to refine search queries. The refined results are easier to manage. You can simply remove the filter entirely, and there's an option to either view a year range using a sliding bar or for you to select individual years itself, and you can toggle between the table and the list view. Next slide, please. So Tech Archive and Research Square was something which I talked about earlier. What we wanted to do was to provide access to an array of early indicators so that you get to see what are the early trends, you get to see the expertise and the impact across the research lifecycle. Since announcing the inclusion of preprints as a content type in Scopus back in 2021, we have now enriched over 1.8 million author profiles on Scopus. with about 1.23 million preprints dating back to 2017. So it's not only just Tech Archive and Research Square. The preprint service selected for Scopus includes Archive and Chem Archive in the areas of physical sciences, BioArchive and MedArchive in biomedical sciences, and SSRN for social sciences. So by the end of the year, we plan to feature links to approximately about 15,000 Tech Archive and 150,000 Research Square preprints dating back to 2017, which would enrich the total number of preprints in Scopus to about 1.4 million. Next slide, please. So we talk about SDG with the 17 interlinked goals. We know that it's been growing in importance globally and also in Malaysia. So we are improving the SDG offerings to support it better. So we are using a blend of expert curation and trusted technology to map each publication to the relevant UN SDGs itself. So if you search on Scopus and you go to, say, an abstract, you can find that one abstract may have multiple SDGs itself based on the keywords that we have mapped accordingly to. So the 2022 plans for SDGs in Scopus would include listing the SDGs that the institution's research is aligned with on its organizational profile so that you can get a better overview of this. Next slide, please. So we talk about grant status on the Scopus author profile. You probably find that the Scopus author profile is already looking a bit different from how it did previously as well. So you can see that in this snapshot, we are able to feature preprints. We are able to feature also awarded grants data. And this is important because we want to give and to share early signals about a researcher's topic on the field of research, the history of certain grants, and the contribution to a particular research topic. So this information can be used to explore opportunities for collaboration, to identify emerging topics and fields, and to inspire research and grant submission strategy. The user feedback will allow for continual improvement in terms of the data, which will then be expanded to include additional regions and funding sources. Next slide, please. So we talked about the researcher discovery earlier, but this is a nice snapshot for you to be able to see how it's like. We may cover this later in the demo itself. So I will encourage you, if you have more questions about what we are covering and talking about, please feel free to type them in the Q&A chat so that we can showcase it to you in the demonstrations itself. But what this solution or this upgrade that we have done is to basically allow you to conduct a keyword search to find researcher matches to build a view of the researchers and individuals contributing to a particular research field. So this will help you to save time. You can look for collaborators. You can find authors to approach for mentorship or advice, or to target individuals to build and to establish a network itself. Next slide, please. So we also have been improving our full text access improvements. So not only are we looking to streamline it so that you can discover access, you can make use of the full text version of the research content that you're looking for. And whenever possible, we always look to link to the version of record. When this is not possible, we will provide access to the repository or the green open access version when available. So you can see under options to get full text, you can view the PDF, you can view your repository version, or you can view it at the publisher itself. So this actually would probably allow you to access contents better than before. Back over to you, Sander.
All right, there, my camera works again. Thanks, Nicholas. I think we're going to do the demo, right?
Yeah, this is probably the demo section.
So can you just confirm you can see Scopus?
Yes, I can.
All right, so Scopus you should be able to access within your university IP range at www.scopus.com. Or via your library. So some libraries have a proxy set up. So, but your librarian should be able to help you access Scopus within the IP of your university, as well as get remote access for some people. That's also possible. But Scopus is clearly focused on searching for things. So when you get to the landing page, there's a, search box. You can search either for documents, for authors. We have the Researcher Discovery Pilot, and you can also search for affiliations, which are institutions. At the top, you've got sources, which will allow you to link to the place where you can find all of the journals, books, and conferences that are included in Scopus. So let me start with just the document search. Within document search, you can search for a lot of different fields. So by default, it's set to title, abstract, and keywords. But if you wanted to search, for example, for all papers which are funded by MOHI, or if you wanted to look for a particular papers that are affiliated to institutions in Kuala Lumpur, you could search for the affiliation city, for example. So there's a lot's possible. That's what I'm trying to say. But by default, it's article title, abstract, and keywords. So I can search for something like, I don't know, it's Malaysia tourism, and see what comes up. So I find 2,000 papers, and by default, they are sorted by date. So I have the newest one at the top. I could also sort by, for example, most highly cited paper at the top. So I find a couple of papers here. Catastrophic 2018 to 2008 to 2009 red tide in Arabian Gulf. All right, I don't know what these papers are about. But if I wanted to know, I can click on one. And this is the article, the document details page that I was talking about. So what we can see here about this paper is it's published in the International Journal of Tourism Research. The title of the paper, it's published by these three people here, and you can see which institutions they are affiliated to. So in this case, these people are all working in Portugal, but they wrote a paper, which you can see here, includes the word tourism and Malaysia. We can see a lot about the paper. So you can see it's got index keywords that included tourism, and the abstract included Malaysia. That's why it's a hit. We can see it belongs to UN SDG goal 11, 12, and 17. We can see it's been cited. Let's see, it's been cited 237 times, which is quite highly cited. So it's cited more than 3 times world average level. A reader. If I wanted to see the dashboard, I can link to that dashboard here and see, for example, how many Mendeley readers, or if the paper was cited by patents or by policy documents, you would also see that here. So I won't spend too much time on that. I'll just go back to Scopus. And then at the bottom, you have the references. So obviously this paper is referring to other papers. Those other papers may or may not be included in Scopus. If they are included in Scopus, you will have a hyperlink here, so you can just link to that paper if you wanted to. Now, one of the things I love about Scopus is that if this paper is something that interests me, I might want to refer to all of the other papers that have been written by this person here. So if I click on this person, it will show me a little bit about the author profile. And if I click on the author profile, it will bring me to Neda Torabi Farsani. This researcher is a researcher in Iran, apparently. So we can see this person has 37 papers, and we can see this person has an H index of 12, has published papers in these topics here. And I can see these papers here. So if any of these are of interest, I can again open the paper. I can see that this person has worked at a number of universities, so has worked in Portugal, but also in Iran. So you can see quite a lot about authors here. So in terms of understanding a person, this author profile is great. But yeah, if you're looking for papers, then you can find all their papers. And again, if for example, I see here a book chapter, and if I open that book chapter, I find the abstract here, the references. If this is something I wanted to read, I can see here my full text options, right? So it's got an SFX button I'm going to press, and it's bringing me here. So it really depends on which publisher is publishing this, how you will access the full text. So find maybe a different one. So this is an article in press. So Scopus includes articles that are not even published yet sometimes. So an article in press. Full text here, there's a full text button, and it links me to Taylor and Francis. So this paper is published by Taylor and Francis Journal. And here I should be able to link to the full text, right? Now I am not right. I don't have access to Taylor and Francis because that's not I belong to Elsevier, right? So Elsevier doesn't have access to Taylor and Francis content, but I'll bet you that your universities, a lot of them do have access to Taylor and Francis. So if you link here and you press here, it's going to link you to the full text for probably for free. Now, supposing I'm going to go back to Scopus, and I'm going to go back to my search, and I'm going to search again for Malaysia tourism. I want to look only at content that is freely available because I'm at home. I don't have any access to paid subscription content. So I can say, all right, I want to look only at open access. So I might limit to see just the open access items. And I should be able to get to the full text now. So if I see this paper here, and I've got some full text options, I go to the full text. I see a white screen. All right, there. And it's an Elsevier. It's an Elsevier paper, but it's an open access paper. So it means that anyone in the whole world, anyone with internet will have access to the full text. So you can either access the full text here in the web interface of Science Direct, or you can download the PDF, right? So in that sense, Scopus is a great place for search and discovery and literature discovery, finding the right papers, finding the right people. I'm going to go back to the homepage. Searching for affiliations, we could search for a university. So here we see a profile for University Malaya. You could link through to see all the papers, all the 18,000 authors that have been affiliated there. We see some basic information about the university. Right, so every institution has a profile. If we go to the top to sources, we can see the many journals, conferences, and books that are in Scopus. And a good way to search is by subject area. So let's say that I'm a researcher in So again, we have 27 subject areas, but 330 disciplines in Scopus. So there's a lot of disciplines here. I'm going to go with my real background, which is developmental and educational psychology. So I see there are 388 titles. Now, you might be familiar with quartiles. So there are metrics used to determine differences in quality between journals. So if I pick, I don't know, just randomly, this one here is a Springer Journal, European Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. There are 3 metrics here to determine the quality of the journal based on citations. So we see here the cite score is 7.9. That means based on a 4-year window, the papers on average were cited 7.9 times. And we can see that means it ranks in the top, it's the 14th best journal in the area of pediatrics. It's the 20th best journal in the area of developmental and educational psychology. So that means it's top quartile. It's even in the top 6% of the journals. So you can determine what are some of the best journals quite easily. So if we look in the category developmental and health, developmental and educational psychology, I can see that the number 1 journal is the Lancet and so forth. So you can kind of rank journals in any of those 330 disciplines, but that can also help you to find the right journal if you have a requirement to publish in the top quartile journal, right? And if I wanted to know what's the top quartile within developmental and educational psychology, I have a filter here to look at the top quartile. And you can see these 136 journals are the top quartile journals in my field based on cite score. So you have to keep in mind these quartiles are based on cite score. So all of that is in this area related to sources. And if you wanted to search for books or conferences, you have those filters here. If you wanted to search by publisher and see all of the Springer journals or Elsevier journals or any other publisher, you can do that here. If you want to know the latest status of a journal in Scopus, you can download the source title list here. By status, I mean, is a journal an active journal in Scopus or has it been discontinued? So this list is updated once a month. This is the best place to understand the status of any given journal that's in Scopus. It will also have a list of all the journals that have been discontinued, as well as a list of all the journals that have recently been added to Scopus, because we add a lot of content to Scopus on an ongoing basis.
Sander, I think while you're on that topic, I think that correlates very closely with a question that one of the audience is asking. So their question was, how do they determine whether the article that they submitted to was intended for Scopus or a clone of Scopus?
You want to try and answer that?
Yeah, sure. So actually the answer, if you go back to the Scopus sources, when you click onto it, you'll always be able to find which journals are currently being indexed within Scopus. I would say that if you do download within the Scopus source list, that would be a very good indicator of whether or not the title that you're submitting to is currently indexed in Scopus or otherwise. A couple of other things that you may also want to take a look at would be to click on the Scopus source itself. For instance, Sandra, can I trouble you to click on the Lancet, which is number 3 on the Scopus source
Give
profile
me
page?
a second. I want to do something a little bit different. So I've downloaded the list. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so there's a lot of information here, right? So this is the source title list, and you can see the status here, active or inactive. I think if we scroll down, we can see some titles that are in red, and you can see the red titles have been discontinued by Scopus, as well as you can see the active coverage year. So some journals were covered and are no longer covered. So for example, this journal here, you can see was covered from 2010 to 2013. It's currently not being covered in Scopus. If we go to the third tab, and I'll make it a little bit bigger for everyone, you can see all the journals that have been discontinued recently, as well as the reason why and what the last date was, or the last volume and issue that we included in Scopus. So it means that we leave the older content in Scopus, but the newer content we're not indexing anymore. So if you publish in any of these journals currently, your paper will not be included in Scopus. So this list is updated once a month, and it's good to keep up to date. I think cloned journals, so a journal which is pretending to be a journal that's in Scopus, but is not really who they say they are, that's a bit tricky. You need to yourself, as an individual, as a researcher, you need to do your due diligence and understand, is this journal really who they say they are? Is it a clone? Is it people trying to trick me? Or is it really the journal? So, we talk a lot about that in some dedicated sessions. And I think, part of it is looking at their website, looking at their editorial board, looking at how they behave. Are they very aggressive in chasing you? I think any journal that seems too eager to publish you is a warning sign, because journals should be very selective. It's difficult to get in a journal, so they should be selective and not over eager to publish you. But also lack of insight into who the editorial board are, or the fact that you find two journals, two websites for the same journal, would suggest there's probably a chance that the one that you're looking at could be the wrong one, right? If you're in doubt, talk to your librarian, talk to other researchers, talk to your mentor, get advice. Don't jump to publish with a journal just because they seem interested. And in life, people are not always what they say they are. Whether you're walking in Kuala Lumpur at night and someone walks up to you and offers you, a gold watch or whatever, he or she may not have your best interests at heart, and they might not be who they say they are. And the same is true on the internet. And unfortunately, a lot of people are using scientific publishing as a context for tricking people and making money, right? So due diligence, just, be careful, use this list to see what's in Scopus, what's not. But anytime that you're solicited, just do your due diligence in understanding who you're talking to. And yeah, so that's my advice. And you have anything to add to that, Nicholas?
Yeah, I was going to say that if you go to the Scopus homepage that we were talking about earlier, when you click on the individual journal source, so if you click on, say, number 3 on the Lancet, so what Sander mentioned earlier is correct. What you should take a look at is to take a look at either the list or on this page itself. You'll be able to find out the coverage years. I'll draw your attention over to ISSN, right? Because you can't really create an identical ISSN. So I would say, and my advice would be to cross-reference the ISSN that you see over here together with say the one that you're reaching out to, right? Make sure the ISSN is the same. You can also take a look at the journal source page itself to see about where this journal points you to as well. So these are some of the ways, the checks and balances that you can definitely adopt to make sure that what you're submitting to is the journal on Scopus and it's not exactly a clone per se. So yeah, just make sure you do your due diligence, and you have to be very careful about this.
Okay, someone's asking about exports. So Ahmed Mohammed, yeah, it's right, there is a limit on exports. So if I search for everything related to
you can do COVID-19, I think that's probably going to be the most.
Yeah, so let's say I wanted to export everything that was published this year so far. It's not going to let me do it. it's too much content, right? So let me try it. So how many can I do basic, right? Let's see. It's going to be, yeah. So I can export 20,000, which is a lot, right? I mean, first of all, 20,000 items is a lot, and that's including the basic data. So let's look at what the basic data is this here. It's already quite a lot of information. Now, yes, if you want to add a lot more, like abstracts and so forth, then the limit is 2,000. Scopus is not meant to help, to export huge amounts of data. So we do have that limit of 20,000 items per export with the basic data, or 2,000 if you really want rich data, including things like abstracts or affiliations and index keywords and so forth. So yeah, that limit is there. Again, it's not a I think it's not a solution that's meant to provide super high volumes of data, although we understand that some people are trying to do that. Jonathan Aparu was going to ask, sometimes full texts are restricted and one is unable to access them. So Scopus is it's an abstract and citation database. So it provides access to the metadata of many articles, but it does not itself provide access to the full text. So it will link you to the publisher and to the relevant journal. Some of those journals might be open access. Some of them might not be open access. So some journals are subscription journals. So it means that your university would need to subscribe to that journal for you to have access. So it really depends on the subscriptions that your university has. And that is usually managed by the university library. So if you want to access a particular full text of a particular journal and you're having trouble doing that, the library is a great place to go and understand what they have access to. Nicholas might have something to add to that, I hope.
No, I think you covered it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see a lot of questions, so that's great. People are asking questions. Will we get a recording of the session? Yes. So I'm going to set up Zoom so that you get sent a link where you can download the slides, as well as a link to the recording today. Can we search the research articles in a particular journal for a particular year? Yeah. So if we want to search by journal, we would select source title. So I can search in Lancet. It's just the short name, so I'm choosing a Lancet. And we can choose another field like, do they have year or should, well, so you have all these other fields. It doesn't include year. Date range.
I think you add date range.
Date range. So date range, I would say 2023 to present. And I'm going to search. And there I find these are the articles published in the Lancet from 2023 onwards. So that's pretty easy. You could also do it as an advanced search. So here you see this query here. So we have what's called the advanced search form, and there you can use any of these operators to narrow down your search. But I would recommend if you're new to this to try just a basic search, but you can add fields, right? So you can add as many fields as you want, including date. Geet, how long does it take Scopus to index articles? So that's a great question. It really depends on the journal. So the journals, let's say 27,000 journals that are indexed in Scopus, provide a content feed to send their they're newly published articles to Scopus. Some of them arrive quite quickly, while others sometimes are delayed. So the best place to go if your article is taking a long time to get into Scopus is to the journal, is to the relevant journal and publisher. And they have a contact at Elsevier content management team. They should have a relationship there. So if their content is slow to get into Scopus, it would be the journal that should discuss that with the relevant person at Elsevier. It's not something that me or Nicholas can take care of. But so the answer is it really depends on the journal. Sometimes it's incredibly quick, and in some cases, it's a little bit slower. Is it possible to analyze my institution's most cited researchers for the last 5 years? So that's a great example of a evaluative use case. So my institution, so it's going to be a little bit tricky, but we're going to try it. So I'm going to start with, so what if we look for a university? I haven't been to UPM in a while. And then we have the authors here. So here already you can see some things about the author. So you can see the number of papers and their H-index. So you should be able to see who has the highest H-index, but that's not based on 5 years. What you're trying to do is really a use case for SciVal. So SciVal is the research analytics solution that can do exactly what you're trying to do. So if I were to open SciVal, you can have a little bit of patience with my internet. It's not been super fast. And I choose.
I think everyone's internet's affected today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really annoying.
Sander, I think from a Scopus perspective, another angle that we can take a look at would be to look at the documents within an institution and be selected by 5 years. But then that would be a much more manual approach as well.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to show SciVal because so I remember I was looking at Putra Malaysia. So in SciVal, I look at University Putra Malaysia, and she said 5 years. So say 5-year period, right? And then we wanted to know who are the top authors. It's super easy, really super easy. And you can use different metrics and so forth. Malaysia used to subscribe, like all of the RU5 used to subscribe to SciVal. And they stopped subscribing. So I've been trying to convince them to subscribe to SciVal again, because it makes all of this a lot easier. There's so much more you can do in SciVal for that piece. I think doing it manually in Scopus is a bit of a pain in the behind. So yeah, so that is what it is, but you have basic information in Scopus for the authors, and you could export some of this. There's some manual stuff you can do, but it will take time. Can we search for documents based on the SDGs mapped to them? Yeah. So that is an advanced search query where I mentioned there's an advanced search. So if you just go to the search page, you see here advanced search, document search. And if you go here on the bottom right, pre-generated queries. Keep in mind, these are the 2020 definitions, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They change over time. So there are updated definitions. In Scopus, you can use the 2020 definition. So if I wanted to know all the papers related to gender equality, it's going to use this advanced search. I'm going to punch in that search. Scopus is going to chew on it for a while, especially with my internet speed. And it's going to find 146,000 documents matching that search. So those are the documents that are matching SDG related to gender equality. And if I click on the paper and I go down here, I see this paper belongs to gender equality as well as good health and well-being, as well as peace, justice, and strong institutions. Right, and that's the 2020 using the 2023 definitions. So keep in mind that that search feature uses the 2020 definition, but the tagging is based on the latest definitions. Okay, so we've gotten through most of the questions and just wonder, oh, there's a new one. How to do systematic literature review in Scopus, and how could I find journals that will accept systematic review papers? This sounds like a great question for Nicholas.
So something that I think we are looking to do right now is to roll out systematic searches on Scopus and how you can do systematic searches. There will be a program that will be launched maybe sometime in the second half of 2023, and I'll keep you all posted on this. But in the meantime, the only thing which I can say with regards to systematic literature review is to construct your search with the parameters that you are aware of using the advanced search on Scopus itself. So it depends on which subject area you're in. If you're in medical science, health sciences, or you're in medicine, I think you're probably familiar that most of the time you'll be doing your systematic literature search on PubMed. You can definitely leverage on the keywords, on some similar keywords, and you can implement it on Scopus as well. So I would say those are the things that I can say with regards to how you can do systematic literature searches on Scopus itself. With regards to journals that will accept systematic review papers, this one I'm not too familiar with it. So unfortunately, I can't address that question.
Yeah, for journals, I think it's a matter of understanding the journals in your field. So you might want to ask your mentor, the people that are teaching you your field, or your colleagues, if they know of good journals that accept systematic reviews. You might just do some Google searches and see what comes up, but then make sure that you shortlist the ones that are high quality journals that are indexed in Scopus, and that you have the right level of kind of prestige and stature, that it's a journal that you want to publish in, right? So those are just some ideas, because we don't have that as a, we don't tag our journals according to which ones accept systematic review. So it's not something that you can search on our side. So
But
that helps a little bit. Any last questions for today?
So adding on to what Sander mentioned as well, what you can probably do is to look at the journals, look at the aims and scope of the journals, and you may also want to take a look at the guide for authors within the journals itself. That will probably give you a better angle into identifying which journals might accept the manuscript that you're submitting to as well.
I think it's a question for you. What does it mean by gold in the search area?
I think that would be Go Open Access, if I'm not mistaken. So essentially what Go Open Access really means is that it means that the author of the manuscript has basically paid for the article processing charges upfront, and therefore the article is now free for everyone else to read. So not everyone has the grants nor the funding to publish Go APC all the time. So it really depends on the scope of the study itself. But if you're interested, what you can do is that you can go to Open Access. You can simply narrow it down by goal. And then when you limit it to goal, you find that there's about 109,000 articles within the search area of depression, where you can read the articles for free from your site. So you don't have to pay any charges with regards to that.
All right. What is the tab Research or Discovery for? So we covered this in the beginning of the session, but I know slides are really boring, so I don't blame you if you weren't listening. So here you can use keywords to find people that are experts in a particular topic or in a particular field. So I'm going to do tacit knowledge because it's really specific and see what comes up. Here, I find some people that have published, the most matching documents that mention tacit knowledge in them. So I would say these are active researchers in that area. And if I wanted to view their profile, I can do that. Here, a system for identifying key tacit knowledge resources in manufacturing company, an approach to tacit knowledge classification. So again, it's there to make it easier to find people, whether it's to find a collaborator, to find your competitors, for people to find potential people to hire, to reach out to for a conference, or for someone to come and work at your university, recruitment, or to find the right reviewer or editor or whatever it is. So you can use keywords to find people in a very, very specific area. So that's all it is, and it's a pilot. We're trying it. You can give feedback on if it's useful. We knew that a lot of people were just doing searches, right? They would do a search for like depression here. And then based on the search, they would see on the left who the authors are, but it's really hard to then click through to these authors and understand who they are. So that wasn't a great way to do it. And then we've got obviously the author search, but that means you already know the author. So here, if I know someone, it's easy for me to find the author profile and understand who they are. Right, but we wanted to make it easier to find all of the experts related to a particular field. And that's what research discovery is about. So that's that. What is PICO? I have no idea. What's PICO?
So I think PICO is actually kind of a search methodology based on Cochrane, which is a different platform entirely. So that would be Cochrane Library. PICO essentially is just an acronym used to formulate a searchable question, right, in terms of patients, intervention, comparison, outcome. But that is a separate product entirely.
Okay, I'm not familiar with PICO or Cochrane, so I can't really comment. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up anyway. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I've heard of it in passing because
heard of
people
it
tend to
passing. Yeah, that's the best we can do there. Sorry. All right, 7 minutes to go. I think. When will SiteScore 2022 be released? SiteScore is always released about halfway through the year. So in June, I would expect that the SiteScore for last year will be released. Why is that? Is because in bibliometric terms, so when you use scientific data to measure the performance of a particular year, so in this case, we want to measure the performance of journals for the year 2022. The year 2022 is considered complete in Scopus in around May 23. So that's around now. Because it takes time for all of the papers to be loaded in Scopus, there are often some journals that are delivering their content quite late. So there are still papers that are 2022 papers that are loaded in the beginning of 2023 into Scopus. So for bibliometric purposes, evaluation, things like SiteScore, we tend to wait until about May to extract all of the data and take that snapshot and then release that in about June. Okay, so that was awesome. You guys asked a lot of questions. That was good because we get tired of hearing ourselves present slides. We don't know sometimes if you're, if it's interesting for you. So if you're asking questions, it means we didn't hurt you too badly. I think that we're at the tail end of this session. It's meant to be a 90-minute session. Some of you I know are keen to have certificates that can prove that you attended this training because you get credits for it at your university. It's pretty easy for you to get that certificate using this URL here, or alternatively use the QR code that's on your screen. It will link to a survey that asks some questions about the consultants. That's me and Nicholas. It asks you if you thought we were helpful and if it was useful and so forth. Elsevier use that to evaluate our performance. So yeah, be nice, please. It's, you know, obviously only if you believe what you're saying. We do hope that today's session is helpful and that the follow-up sessions will be helpful. We will ensure that Zoom sends you an email tomorrow at 10 a.m. that includes a link to this slide deck and a link to the recording. So please, if you're like, oh, I forgot, I don't have the link to the certificate, or I lost the QR code, or whatever it is, you will get access to it tomorrow. Please also remember to join the follow-up sessions that we have scheduled. All of that's included in these slides, the QR codes. So with that, I think we're gonna call it a day. Is there anything else you wanted to cover, Nick?
No, I think hopefully we managed to address most of the questions that were brought up by you guys. If not, we definitely look forward to seeing you in the next session itself.
Yeah, just a reminder that, hey, this was session 1. Session 2 is June 20th. So about a month from now. So we've got some time. I'll make sure that you guys get copies of this again in your inbox as a follow-up. You're going to get a link to download the slides as well as a link to today's recording. So we hope that this was helpful. We hope that you're well and healthy and happy, and wish you a good day. So we're just going to wave. See you later. Hey, have a good week there, Nicholas.
Thanks a lot. You too, Sander. I'll see you around.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.